Over the last week, dozens of numbers have been passed back and forth between the city of Jacksonville and First Coast News, and back to the city again, asking for more clarification because some numbers don't add up. One thing they know for sure:
more heart claims are denied than accepted.
The mayor's chief of staff, Adam Hollingsworth, says the 441 claims filed under the heart and lung bill in the last 5 years were all carefully reviewed.
It's important that we determine whether or not a person's claim of heart disease or hypertension is in fact related to the course of their employment, not a lifestyle issue.
Hollingsworth is aware that police and firefighters are not happy with how many of those cases were denied.
He feels like there is a pattern of denial.
There's not.
Okay. He is also saying, though, that he feels that there is, and
The facts don't support the assertion.
In December, the city gave us numbers showing the amount of heart and lung cases denied jumped over the last 5 years, from 30% in 2006 to 72% in 2010. Over a 5-year period, more than 65% were rejected. We got these same numbers from the city again last week.
so you're saying not a pattern of denial.
In fact, the city's pattern is to make sure that injured employees and employees who developed a condition as a result of their employment get the medical care they need. That's our pattern.
But after waiting for months for other numbers, like the amount of money paid to attorneys, how many cases have been won and lost, and how many are appealed, well, it's still unclear. The city says it does not have a tracking system in place to follow all these cases, and it is having to go from memory. For exact numbers, the city says it would have to pull all the files. Hollingsworth is confident the city accepted 90% of all workers' comp claims in the last 5 years, and in the 10% denied and challenged at the local court level.
In 80% of the cases, the trial court or the
local
workers' comp court,
judge.
the workers' comp court makes a determination that the city has made the correct decision. When those cases are appealed to the First District Court of Appeals, the city prevails in 75% of the cases.
In 2 separate interviews, Hollingsworth used those numbers. But after the interviews, we did our own math and realized his numbers did not add up. Let's start with December. Back then, the city told us it fought 6 heart and lung cases on the appellate court level, winning 3 and losing 3. Last week, the city gave us another set of numbers, showing a total of 6 appellate cases for all workers' comp claims. The document showed the city won 4 and lost 2. When we alerted the city to the discrepancy, it gave us new numbers. This week, the city said there were actually 11 appeals for all workers' comp claims. It won 4, lost 5, and settled 2. The city says the reason for the different numbers is because of confusion over separating heart and lung claims and all workers' comp cases.
We saved money for the taxpayers.
That is one point Hollingsworth made over and over during 2 separate interviews.
In 2007, we spent about $26 million on the city's workers' comp program. Last year, we spent $16 million. So over the last 3 years, the city of Jacksonville has saved more than $10 million. Over the last 3 years, the city of Jacksonville has saved $10 million in its total workman's comp program.
Hollingsworth's savings come from this: the total cost of money spent in risk management. In 2006, it was $20 million, but that number jumped to $26 million in 2007, then went back down to $20 in 2008, up to $21 in 2009, and down to $16 million in 2010. The $10 million savings is from comparing 2007 to 2010. The number of claims filed and accepted and denied were basically identical during those 2 years. What we don't know is what kind of injuries were treated. We won't know that because of HIPAA regulations.
We saved money for the taxpayers by making sure that we pay employees and provide medical care to those who are injured in the course of their employment, and by not compensating employees who aren't injured in the course of their employment.
After months of waiting, the city finally turned over its numbers on how much attorneys have been paid challenging the city's decisions. The numbers show in the last 5 years, you paid lawyers representing injured workers $1.9 million because the city lost or settled. When we questioned Hollingsworth on all that money.
$10 million is a lot of money, and the city's saved $10 million in its workers' comp program over the last 3 years, and we're proud of that record.
More than $831,000 has been spent on investigations of workers' comp claims in the last 5 years. When we pressed Mayor Payton for an answer on it.
Can you answer, though, fraud has been caught? I'm not asking for medical records. Has fraud been caught?
I can promise you that we have caught fraud in our efforts over time.
We asked Hollingsworth if the city had any numbers on that.
How much fraud would you say has been caught by the city of Jacksonville?
You know, I got to tell you, I'm uncomfortable with that word. We have employees in our city who every day file on a good faith basis a claim because they believe that they were injured in the course of their employment. And in fact, what we know is that in more than 90% of the cases, an employee who files a claim seeking compensation or medical care for their injury, the city finds that in fact that's an appropriate claim.
How many cases then has the city found that have been under surveillance or investigated? A part of that $831,000 spent in the last 5 years, how many cases of those then would you say you found where a worker was not injured on the job?
Less than 10%.
$831,000 spent on less than 10%. That's a lot of money.
No, $10 million is a lot of money. And the city of Jacksonville has saved $10 million in the last 3 years.
He says the city does not define fraud. It leaves that up to the court system.